Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So right now we actually have a bill in Congress where once in a blue moon we actually have both Republicans and Democrats coming together and agreeing that Social Security beneficiaries deserve a massive increase. And we're going to be going over one case where one person, if this bill passes, would actually end up receiving an increase of $1,200 every single month. Plus, we have former President Nixon's attorney saying that after the Maine ruling to kick Donald Trump off their ballot in the state, he's actually in some pretty big trouble. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Plus, if you would like to receive at least $60 in free stocks or at least $60 in free cash, in a pinned comment below I will be leaving a link to Webull. All you got to do is once you click on that link is open up a free account. At that point, as long as you deposit at least 1 penny, they're going to send you 20 stocks absolutely for free. And then at that point, if you do not want to invest at this point in time, you can always just sell those stocks for what they're worth and then transfer these $60 or more in cash that you receive right back to your bank account. Okay, so diving right into our lead story for today, of course, I was browsing Twitter this morning and I saw an interesting chart. It dealt with illegal immigration. Of course, it's always been a problem here, but it's really gotten worse under the current regime with President Joe Biden. And we can see a chart here that actually, for the first time ever since August, there are officially more arriving each month than there are children being born to American mothers. So American mothers right now are giving birth to less children than the amount of illegal immigrants who are being encountered. And keep in mind, these are only illegal immigrants who are being encountered. Think of all the people who are not being encountered. So if you even count those, it's much higher than the births to American mothers. So just let me know what your thoughts and comments are below on this chart and how you feel about all the illegal immigration that's taking place in this country. Now, in some other news, of course, we move on to President Trump news. And over in Wisconsin, he actually got some good news where we had some people threatening to kick him off the ballot there as well. But the Wisconsin election officials pretty much shut down their efforts immediately. So according to The Hill, Wisconsin officials have declined to review a complaint attempting to remove former President Trump from the state's primary ballot, citing the 14th Amendment. Madison, Wisconsin brewery owner Kirk Bangstad filed a complaint with the Wisconsin Election Commission on Thursday, claiming Trump should be removed from the ballot due to his actions surrounding the January 6th 2021 Capitol riot. So as you can see there, they pretty much shut down that immediately, which is different than what happened in two different states. We had Colorado kicking him off the ballot. That's going to be reviewed by the Supreme Court. And then of course we had Maine also removing him from the ballot. And we actually have former President Nixon's attorney saying that, this decision in Maine is actually setting Trump up to be in some pretty big troubles. And this decision is probably going to stand. So according to The Hill, former President Nixon's White House attorney John Dean said Thursday he believes the Maine decision to remove former President Trump from the ballot will be difficult to overturn, calling it, quote, very solid. Maine Secretary of State Shanna Bellows determined late Thursday that Trump should be kept off the state's primary ballot because his conduct surrounding the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots violated the 14th Amendment. Dean denounced criticism by the Trump campaign, which called the decision, quote, election interference. He said there was ample due process in this proceeding, and they just lost a straight, honest reading of the 14th Amendment. Dean said in a CNN interview, Trump's in trouble. Bellows said that Trump used a false narrative of election fraud to inflame his supporters on January 6th and was, quote, aware of the likelihood for violence and at least initially supported its use, given he both encouraged it with incendiary rhetoric and took no timely action to stop it. Now, obviously, it's really going to depend on which side of the aisle you stand with Trump. If you love Trump, you're going to say that he obviously had nothing to do with it. It was all set up, or whatever rhetoric you might have. If you hate Trump, you're going to say he absolutely was the reason for it. He's evil, he's terrible, he should be put in prison for life. And then if you're somewhere in the middle, you might say that Trump might say some things, but just because he says certain things doesn't mean that you should necessarily follow him. Plus, if you look at a lot of his tweets on the day, he did not call for any type of violence. He said peaceful protests, everything like that. And we can look back at a 2017 incident involving Bernie Sanders, where the Republicans were trying to put through a health care bill. And Bernie Sanders was like, Republicans, by trying to put this thing through, they're gonna pretty much kill thousands of Americans. And there was a pretty big supporter of Bernie Sanders who took that comment to heart, and he went out to a Republican baseball practice and he tried to gun down several Republicans, or as many Republicans as he could. He ended up shooting 6 and wounding them. None of them died, but just because Bernie Sanders said that Republicans are trying to kill thousands of Americans by pushing through this health care bill, it doesn't mean that he should be responsible for the actions of other people to go out with a gun and try to shoot a bunch of Republicans. Just like Trump, saying that perhaps the election was rigged, doesn't mean that people have the right to go and, enter the Capitol without being invited in there and I guess trespassing at the very least. So obviously you can't blame Bernie Sanders for the actions of one person, and you can't blame Donald Trump for the actions of those on January 6th, at least my opinion, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Now, moving into the main story of today's video, we actually have a bill in Congress, like I mentioned, and for once in a blue moon, we actually have Republicans and Democrats on the exact same page. They are both in support of the bill. The bill has hundreds of co-sponsors, Republicans and Democrats alike, so this bill absolutely has a great chance to pass in 2024. We're going to be covering a story right here where if it passes, there's going to be one beneficiary who's going to receive an increase by right around $1,200. So according to the Richmond Times, Thomas Brown has worked since he was 16 years old. He's worked in restaurants, repaired tractor trailers, served in the U.S. Air Force, and spent more than 25 years in the U.S. Postal Service taking care of the machines that process mail. Even while working at the Postal Service, Brown made ends meet with a part-time job in building maintenance, and he kept working in private sector jobs after leaving the Federal Civil Service 20 years ago. Now 74, living in Highland Springs, he receives pension benefits he earned over 30 years in the military and civil service, but his monthly check from Social Security isn't close to what he expected for the years he contributed to the National Retirement Savings Plan. Instead, Brown receives about 1/3 of the benefit he believes he earned, less than $600 a month of the nearly $1,800 to which he says he is entitled. So basically that's one story, and that's because of two different provisions we have in Congress right now. There's one called the Windfall Elimination Provision, and then there's the other one called the Government Pension Offset. So basically, if you receive a pension, because you receive that pension, the Social Security benefit that you would normally receive is reduced by a certain amount. So in his case, instead of receiving right around $1,800 in Social Security benefits, if not for this provision, he's actually only earning right around $600 per month. So right now he's receiving $1,200 less than what he should be receiving. And if this bill passes in Congress next year, if it passes, he's once again going to receive the full amount of $1,800. That would be a $1,200 per month increase for this person. Obviously a very substantial amount. Now, Representative Abigail Spanberger agrees with this person who wants this to pass. Obviously, she is one of the leaders of this bill. The 3-term Virginia Congresswoman introduced legislation this year with Representative Garrett Graves, a Republican, to repeal two 40-year-old provisions of the Social Security Act that were intended to prevent public sector retirees from, quote, double dipping with pension benefits, but instead block them from receiving the full benefits to which they say they are entitled for work outside of public service. And we can see this bill up on the screen and the amount of co-sponsors that it has. First, we are going to explore the bill that's currently in the House of Representatives. We can see right here at the top of the screen, it shows 301 co-sponsors. Keep in mind, for any bill to pass through the House, it needs at least 218 yes votes. This has more than 218 votes, so it would obviously pass in the House. It has both, we have 201 Democrats and 100 Republicans in support of this bill. Now in the Senate, it would need at least 60 votes to pass. Right now there are 49 co-sponsors, as you can see at the top of the screen. Out of the co-sponsors, we have 39 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and 3 independents. Obviously, I think with 49 co-sponsors, they would probably get 11 more votes on top of that. So if this thing were to actually be voted on in both the House and the Senate, in my opinion, it would definitely pass. The real problem here, though, if this bill were to pass, is because remember, we have numerous states out there of Social Security insolvency where, let's say like 2032, 2033, somewhere between 8 to 10 years from now, if nothing is done about the program, we're not going to have enough benefits to pay out 100% of the benefits to everyone who will be receiving them at that point in time. So what would happen, let's say like 2033, is they're going to have to cut benefits across the board for everyone by 20%. So they're looking to either bring more money into the trust fund or looking for a way to send out less money from the trust fund and retain more money in the trust fund. So if this bill passes, essentially what's going to end up happening is we're going to have all these beneficiaries who receive a pension. Their Social Security benefit is actually going to increase, which means even more money is going to be leaving the trust fund, which means that's just going to speed up the insolvency date. So instead of looking at, say, 2032 or 2033, we might be looking at like 2029 or 2030. So instead of like 9 to 10 years, we might be looking at like, say, 5 to 7 years, which would definitely speed up that date. So that's the one problem with this bill. But at the end of the day, I think right now if they voted, it would definitely pass, which would mean for a lot of beneficiaries, a pretty big increase in their monthly pay. But let me know what your thoughts and comments are below on this bill. And that's all we have for today's video. Certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. And I will see you in the next video.